Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Bond Court is now in session.
We are now live on YouTube. For the record, this is position 87 on my calendar, State of Georgia versus Therese Tiunta, Tiunta Williams. Mr. Williams is charged in warrant number 2022 CW 51291 with committing the offense of aggravated assault. He's charged in warrant number 2022 CW 51292 with committing the offense of murder. And finally, he's charged in warrant number 2022 CW 51293 with committing another offense of aggravated assault. Mr. Williams is present here. He's being represented by attorney Stanley Schoolcraft. The state is present and is being represented by attorney Cheryl Freeman. Mr. Williams, before we get started, I just need to admonish you, sir, that this proceeding is neither private nor is it privileged. So please don't say anything you wouldn't want the whole world to know. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Miss Attorney Freeman, you can swear in your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Walker, you can unmute yourself and turn your video on. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony about to provide in the matter of State of Georgia versus Therese Williams will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Sure.
Thank you. Please tell us your name and how you're employed.
Detective A. Walker, Clayton County Police Department.
How long have you worked with the Clayton County Police Department?
8 years.
Sir, were you assigned to investigate the death of a Mr., see if I can pronounce the name correctly, Okoye Zanu, which occurred on December 26th of 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
And was this incident allegedly occur at 1108 Brookstone Road?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that an address in Clayton County?
Yes, ma'am.
Please tell us what your investigation revealed.
Well, I received a call from Clayton County Uniform Patrol on December 26, 2021. And I responded, and this, as a result of this case, was one male being shot and killed and another male being shot at. This case is in reference to co-defendant. Am I allowed to say the co-defendant? Well,
if you could, before we get into all that, who was what is the name of the second victim?
Mr. Zanu Ayutunde is the one who was shot at, and Mr. Olatunya Sako Okoye is the deceased victim.
Okay, so we have one victim who is deceased and one who was shot at.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How many suspects were you able to determine were involved in this incident?
2 for right now.
Okay, and so that would be Mr. Therese Williams, and who's the second person?
Ramon Stovall.
Okay, and so please tell us, and you can continue what your investigation revealed.
Okay, this investigation involved Mr. Ramon Stovall. Within this investigation, the situation was over the sale and purchase of some iPhones at the incident address of 1108 Brookstone Road. As stated before, as a result, Mr. Okoye was shot and killed, and Mr. Tunde was shot at, in which he ran for his life. Mr. Williams,
let's go back real quick. Who was supposed to purchase cell phones?
The purchase of the cell phones was for Mr. Okoye. He's supposed to be getting the cell. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. And who was Mr. Okoye supposed to get the cell phones from?
Mr. Williams.
Okay. And how were you able to determine that it was a sale that was supposed to happen between Mr. Okoye, the decedent, and Mr. Therese Williams?
There are several text messages in which I pulled Mr. Williams' phone records. in which his phone number and Mr. Okoye's phone records are identical, which they were talking about the sale of iPhones.
And was the sale of the iPhone supposed to take place at the 1108 Brookstone Road?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were there any other witnesses that were at this location for the sale of the cell phones?
Yes, ma'am. Also, Attorney Freeman, there were also Instagram messages also as well in terms of the sale of the iPhone.
And whose
Yes,
Instagram account did you have occasion to review?
Therese Williams and Ramon Stovall.
And what did those messages indicate?
May I read them directly?
Well, we don't need you to read all the messages. If you can tell us just in general what they stated.
Well, Therese was conversating between himself and one subject. His username is JAEYPCF. They talk about the cell phones, and one of them states about selling the cell phone for $675. Another user, this same particular username is advising Therese on how they can fake the cell phones. And I know you said you didn't want me to read
it.
Okay. Can I interrupt for a second, Ms. Freeman? Detective Walker, I'm listening for comprehension, so it'll help me if you just respond to the questions that Attorney Freeman is asking.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It'll allow me to take the information in. Okay.
Okay, I apologize, Judge.
No problem.
And the message, Detective, that you indicated that was suggested how he could fake it. Was that in Mr. Williams' Instagram account?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What was the information that was discussed regarding faking the sale?
The information stated how they can put some heavy type stuff in a bag and pretend that the bag had phones. Once they meet up with the victim, they were to hand over the money and count the money up and then smash off.
And in your 8 years in law enforcement, Detective Walker, your training and experience, what did smash off mean to you?
Robbery.
And was this, in again, the decedent is Okoye Zanu, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us, what did your investigation reveal as to how Mr. Therese Williams and Mr. I believe that Ramon Stovall got to the 1108 Brookstone Road?
I'm sorry, repeat that question.
Were they in a vehicle? How did they get to that location?
Oh, they was in a white Charger. Mr. Williams, Mr. Stovall, and two other persons of unknown. I don't know who the other two were, but they rode in the vehicle with a Mr. Tyler Davis, who was a driver of the vehicle, and his cousin. However, Mr. Davis was utilizing a cash ride business in which he did not know where they was going.
Were you able to interview Mr. Davis?
Mr. Davis, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what information was Mr. Davis able to provide to you regarding Mr. Williams going to this address?
Mr. Davis mostly had contact with Ramon Stovall. Ramon was responsible for getting the ride to meet up with Therese over on Brookstone Road. Once Mr. Davis arrived to pick up Ramon and several other unknown individuals got into the car. However, Christopher Davis, who's Mr. Davis's cousin, also states that Therese was also inside of the car.
Were you able to determine, were you able to confirm that this Tyler Davis did in fact take Ramon Stovall and Therese Williams to the 1108 Brookstone Road address? Yes,
ma'am, because Ramon Stovall also had Instagram messages in which they exchanged price-wise, because it was $15 for Christopher to take them to Brookstone Road.
Okay. So what happened after they all arrived at the Brookstone Road address?
They initially, once they finally got to Brookstone Road, they didn't arrive at 1108 just then. According to Christopher and Tyler, they stopped closer to Therese's house. Once they arrived in front of closer to Therese's house on Brookstone Road, Ramon and the other individuals got out of the car to speak with another individual. After a few short minutes, then they drove down to 1108 Brookstone Road. According to the victim, Mr. Okoye, not the deceased victim, he observed Therese. He was talking with Therese, and all of a sudden, a guy gets out of the car, out of the white Charger, go into the trunk, pull out a gun, and start shooting. He shot the deceased and shot at Mr. Okoye. Mr. Okoye ran for his life behind the apartment buildings. Christopher and Tyler stated that they heard the gunshots, and all of a sudden, Ramon was already inside the car. Several guys got back in the car and they took off, and one of the guys was screaming, we didn't get nothing.
Detective, from speaking with these witnesses, were you able to determine where Therese Williams was when the actual shooting happened? Was he inside of the car or outside of the car? According
to Christopher Davis, Therese sat on the far left side, rear side of the car. Now, I don't know if Therese was inside the car or outside the car. However, Christopher and Tyler states that Ramon was sitting in the middle seat of the car when the shooting happened.
Were you able to determine who the actual shooter was?
Not as of yet.
Was there any type of video footage of the incident?
There was minor video of the white Charger being pulled up in front of 1108 Brookstone Road. However, we only saw, appears to be a black male silhouette walking up in front of the car talking, but we didn't actually get a visual of who it was walking up to the car. But it does coincide with what Mr. Okoye was saying.
Did you locate this white Dodge Charger?
Yes, actually, Tyler brought the car up here to headquarters.
Were you able to gather or collect any evidence from the Charger to help in this investigation?
No, ma'am, I wasn't.
Have you been able to locate the firearm that was used in this incident?
I have not.
Have you had an opportunity to interview Mr. Therese Williams?
I have.
And did he make a statement to you?
Yes, he did.
And what was that statement, sir?
He states that there was a young man by the name of Polo who was the actual shooter that night. However, what he did not tell me, I didn't find this out until I listened to the jail records. He states that Polo was already killed a few days after the shooting. He was talking to another young lady. Something that has something to do with another situation, but he states that Polo was already killed, but he didn't tell me that. He just told me that Polo was the actual shooter.
And based on that statement, have you been able to to determine if this individual by the name of Polo was actually there during the shooting?
No, ma'am. I actually pulled his, got a search warrant and pulled this guy's Instagram records, and I didn't see anything relating to shooting that night. The only Instagram messages that I've seen that related to that shooting is Ramon's Instagram and Therese's Instagram, in which Ramon and Therese also had conversations within his Instagram.
From going through Mr. Williams' Instagram account, did you ever see any statements regarding that he and some of the others were on Brookstone, or what they were going to do on that evening?
There are some Instagram messages on Ramon's page and Therese's pages in which Ramon, they call him Draco. He sends a message to Therese, "Where's the Africans?" And Therese tells Draco to come to Chopper right now. I've talked to Therese and I've talked to Ramon. I haven't really figured out what Chopper is. According to Ramon, Chopper is a house. And Therese say Chopper is a group. I'm not really sure. But Therese does tell Draco to hurry up, get there first, because he wants to get to the location before the Africans do.
And were you able to determine, when they say before the Africans do, who they were referring to?
To the victims, both victims.
The second victim in this case, Detective Walker, was he shot at all?
He was not shot. He ran for his life.
Were you able to collect any shell casings at this location?
I didn't collect the shell casings, but our crime scene did collect shell casings.
And Detective, and I think I asked this, I can't recall the answer. Was the white Charger recovered?
Mr. Davis actually brought the Charger up to headquarters when we interviewed him and his cousin.
Were any shell casings found in the Dodge Charger?
No, ma'am, it was not.
Was Mr. Ayo Tunde, the second victim who was not shot, was he able to identify Mr. Therese Williams?
He stated that Therese is the person that he was talking with, that was on scene when they talked about the sale of the iPhones.
Was Mr. Ayo Tunde able to identify the person who was the actual shooter?
He was not.
Was the decedent pronounced dead on the scene?
He was.
Do you recall where on his body he was shot?
I don't recall, Attorney Freeman. I apologize.
Okay. Did all of this take place in Clayton County?
Yes, it did.
Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Schoolcraft.
Yes, Judge. Can you tell me the interview with Mr. Williams, is that recorded?
Yes, it was, sir.
Video and audio?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, let me just make sure. Can you tell me who the second victim was? Spell the name,
Spell the name. Okay.
please.
Ayo is the first name. Alpha
I'm
Yankee.
sorry, how do you spell it?
Alpha Yankee Oscar. Ayo. That's his first name. His
Okay.
last name is Zanu. I spell Zulu Alpha, November, uniform.
I'm sorry, Zulu Alpha, November.
Uniform.
I apologize. Was that a U?
Yes, sir. You was in uniform.
Okay. So it's ZANNU.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And he said that he was talking to Mr. Williams about purchasing the phones when somebody else opened fire.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did he tell you where the murder victim was standing at the time that the shots rang out?
Okay, this is a cul-de-sac. So according to Mrs. Zanu, they both were standing near his car.
Okay, not near the charger.
I'm not sure if it was near the charger, but the charger was not far. If you ever get a chance to look at the video, the charger actually pulls up in the cul-de-sac in front of the home where Mrs. Zanu resides. And the car was actually in his driveway.
Okay. Does the video show the shooting?
No, sir.
Only the charger driving up.
Yes, sir.
And who was the person that was driving the charger?
Tyler Davis.
Now, was he arrested?
No, sir.
Okay. He just was picking him up to go to he thought they were selling cell phones?
Okay. Mr. Davis runs a cash ride business.
I got you.
He runs a cash ride business. Ramon Stovall was responsible for obtaining a ride for Therese and the other guys to go bring them to Brookstone Road. He and his cousin drove to the location with the other guys inside the vehicle.
Okay.
And they came, I think a day or two after the murder, and interviewed detectives here at Clayton County Police Headquarters.
Now, I'm just trying to get was the gun in the trunk of the car, in the back seat? Where was it?
According to Mr. Zanu, a young man got out of the car, went into the trunk, pulled out a gun, and started shooting.
Okay. Did Mr. Davis ever tell you that he saw somebody put a gun in the trunk?
He did not. What I gathered was once they got to the first part of Brookstone Road, all of the guys got out of the car. I don't know this for sure, but there's a possibility maybe they put a gun in the trunk. I don't know. And neither does Tyler Davis know, nor his cousin Christopher.
So he has no idea how the gun got there. Doesn't know who put it in there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I got this correct. Mr. Williams arranges to sell some cell phones with
Yes,
the
sir.
victim, the murder victim.
No, not the deceased victim.
Mr.
Mrs. Zanu. Yes.
Okay. So he arranges.
Mrs. Zanu, I'm sorry.
He arranges to meet Mr. Zanu. They arrive on the scene. He's talking to Mr. Zanu, and somebody just pulls a gun out of the trunk and starts shooting.
That's what we got.
Okay. So there's no evidence that my client knew about the gun. True?
I can't tell you that.
Okay. That he didn't hand the gun to this person, right?
I can't tell you that neither.
Oh, Mr. Zanu said the guy took it out of the trunk, right?
I don't know if that was Therese. I don't know who that was.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out, did Mr. Zanu say that Mr. Williams said, go ahead and shoot?
I can't tell you. I can't answer that question, attorney.
No, okay, but Mr. Zanu never told you that.
Never told me what.
That Mr. Williams said, go ahead and shoot. In other words, encourage the guy.
No, he never said that.
Okay. I had no further questions, Judge.
Any follow-up?
No, Your Honor, the state rests.
Mr. Schoolcraft, do you intend to call any witnesses?
No, Judge.
Detective Walker, you are free to stay or to leave at your pleasure, but you are now released from your
Thank you, sir.
obligation to be here.
Thank you, sir.
Ms.
Thank you,
Freeman,
Detective.
yes, Ms. Freeman, I am assuming you're going to waive opening.
Yes, Judge.
Mr. Schoolcraft, let me hear from you.
Judge, I would just say that it's clear that my client did not shoot anybody. He may have set up the rendezvous in order to sell cell phones, and he was speaking to the person that he had been talking to when gunshots rang out. There's no proof he wasn't the driver of the car. That was Tyler Davis. He wasn't the shooter. He didn't encourage the shooter. So what I'm saying is there's not enough evidence to put him as a party to the crime. He was there, and he may have set up the buy, but that doesn't make him a party to the crime. It's a legitimate, I mean, it's not against the law to sell cell phones to people. And I would say that he went there for a legitimate transaction and all hell broke loose. But he's not a party to a crime because he didn't encourage it, he didn't drive him there, and he didn't give him the weapon. So I would ask the charges be dismissed, Judge.
Is there any evidence that your client called to report this shooting that he had nothing to do with?
Well, there was nothing on in the testimony of the detective. I don't know whether he called or whether he didn't. The detective didn't testify.
Okay. Ms. Freeman?
Thank you, Judge. We're asking all the charges be bound over. To use Mr. Schoolcraft's words, this rendezvous that was planned based on the Instagram messages or text messages between Mr. Therese Williams and his co-defendant, Mr. Ramon Stovall. He had it in his account as to how to fake it, and was very detailed. I believe detective testified about getting a book bag, putting something in it, so it looks like it's the phone. Then in the end, to smash off, meaning a robbery. So just certainly, it seems that Mr. Williams, from the beginning, that this was not going to be a legitimate transaction. And unfortunately, somebody lost their life as a result of this. So we're asking that based on the testimony provided by Detective Walker, his analysis of the messages between Mr. Therese Williams, Ramon Stovall, the information provided by Mr. Tyler Davis, who was the driver of this white Dodger, we believe that at this stage that there is enough to bind all the charges over to Superior Court.
Okay, I'm going to find that there is sufficient evidence to bind this case over to the Superior Court of Clayton County. I'm relying upon the testimony of the messages of let's hurry up and get there before the Africans. The fact that this was ride sharing, person was retained, and then after the alleged incident, I'm not aware.
Investigator Wright, can you mute yourself, please? Thank you.
I find that the evidence is sufficient based upon the allegation to get there before the Africans, the ride sharing agreement that was used, and then no evidence that there was any kind of phone calls made to law enforcement to say, you know, oh my God, I was just involved in a shooting I had nothing to do with. So, case going to be bound over Superior Court of Clayton County. Mr. Schoolcraft, you are released. Mr. Williams can go back to, well, he can go back.
And we just have the one last case, Alfonso Woods.
Yes.
Thank you, Detective Walker.
Yes. So let's bring up Mr. Alfonso Anthony Woods.
Attorney Toles, just wanted to make sure, did you want to run it past him one more time? No, okay, that's fine.
I've been here all day. Let's go.
Okay, that's fine. What I didn't want to happen, well, is at the end is to come back later and ask me for what I offered in the beginning. So that's why I brought that up.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just saying, Mr. Toles and Ms. Freeman, I got a great idea about Zoom Chronicles. We can be Law and Order. We can be 20 years into telling Zoom stories.
Oh yeah. Hi, Miss Fowler.
Freeman, how you all doing?
We're good. How are you?
I'm good. Is he the last hearing?
Yes.
One more. Yes, ma'am.
Investigator Wright, you can turn your video on and unmute yourself.
My apologies.
No problem. Okay, so for the record, this is position number 90, State of Georgia versus Alfonso Anthony Woods. Mr. Woods is charged in warrant number 2022 CW 51156 with committing the offense of conspiracy to commit a crime. He's also charged in warrant number 2022 CW 51157 with committing the offense of conspiracy to commit a crime. He's charged in warrant number 2022 CW 51158 with committing the offense of false imprisonment. He's charged in warrant number 2022 CW 51159 with committing the offense of party to the commission of a crime. Mr. Woods is present. He's represented by Mr. Attorney Christopher Toles. Mr. Toles is also present. The state is being represented by Attorney Cheryl Freeman, and she is present. Mr. Woods, before we get started, I just need to admonish you, sir, or let you know that these proceedings are being recorded, and it's not privileged nor is it private. So please don't say anything that you don't want the whole world to know. If there's at any point that you believe you need to speak to your lawyer, I can stop the proceedings and I can allow you to speak to your lawyer in private. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Freeman, will you swear in your witness and present your case?
Thank you, Your Honor. Investigator Wright, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to provide in the matter of Alfonso Woods will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You can lower your hand. Please tell us your name and how you're employed.
Investigator C. Wright. I'm employee number 29115. I'm currently employed with the Clayton County Sheriff's Office as an investigator in internal affairs.
Can
How
I
long have you worked with?
stop you 1 second, Ms. Freeman?
Yes.
Could you, Investigator Wright, try not to be so monotone, because in my hearing, everything kind of runs together as you were just responding. So just try to make certain that you speak clearly so that I can at least pick it up. Okay, sir?
Okay, I'll take my AirPods out.
Okay, thank you.
How long have you worked with the Sheriff's Office?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
How long have you worked with the Sheriff's Office?
Since October of 2020.
Investigator Wright, were you contacted by someone in the Sheriff's Office to investigate an inmate assault that took place on December 31st of 2021?
Yes, I was contacted by, at the time, I was a deputy, and I was contacted by Lieutenant Doyle to investigate an assault that occurred inside the Clayton County Jail.
Where exactly did the assault occur in the jail?
The assault occurred inside of housing unit 7, cell 7214 on December 31st of 2021.
Was there a particular inmate who was assigned to that cell?
Yes, there were particular inmates assigned to that cell. However, I only have one inmate's name that I know for sure that was assigned to that cell. That was inmate Moore.
Okay. the alleged victim in this case, was the alleged victim an inmate at the time?
Yes, he was.
And was that Mr. Jerry Wilkerson?
Yes, ma'am.
Please tell us how did this alleged assault happen based on your investigation?
Okay, based on my investigation, on December 31st of 2021 at approximately 21:30 hours, and excuse me, after speaking with inmate, or former inmate, I believe he's a former inmate, Wilkerson, he stated that another inmate came down to his cell while he was in the cell, and told him that a few other inmates need to speak to him. At which time he went up to the cell shortly after being told that he needed to go and talk to another inmate or a few inmates inside the cell. After he went inside the cell, he stated that, let me get these names. I'm sorry.
Investigator Wright,
Yes, sir.
to the best of your ability, please testify about just what you have in your knowledge.
Okay.
If you need to look to a document or anything to refresh your memory, that is totally fine. But we can't have your testimony be reading from a prepared statement, especially if you have not turned it over to the defense.
I understand. I just don't know each inmate name for name. So I was just going to go back and name the inmates versus saying a inmate and the inmate, but I understand, sir.
Well, and I'll just rely upon the district attorney to ask you questions and just respond. And if you have the answer, provide the answer. If you need to refer to something to answer the question, do that. You don't have to add, more than what she's requesting.
Yes, Your Honor. So inmate Wilkerson proceeded to go inside the cell, at which point in time he spoke to a inmate or multiple inmates inside the cell. An assault ensued inside the cell of inmate Wilkerson. And upon my investigation, after reviewing video footage and after reviewing video footage, there were several inmates that I observed go into the cell, came out of the cell prior to the incident, during the incident, and after the incident. In this case, the defendant was one of the inmates. The defendant Woods was one of the inmates that I observed on camera that went into the cell during the assault of inmate Wilkerson.
So let's go back some investigator Wright, because I know you stated that inmate Wilkerson came out of his cell to go to another cell. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did the alleged assault occur in that other inmate cell, or did it happen in inmate Wilkerson's cell?
It happened in 7214, which was another inmate cell.
Okay. And just so we understand, during this time, are the inmates allowed to freely walk from one cell to the other?
If they're out on free time, they do walk from cell to cell. When they congregate inside one another's cells, there's technically per the sheriff's office rules and regulations, there's the only inmates that are supposed to be inside their cell are inmates that are assigned to that cell.
And how many inmates are assigned to a cell?
It varies. There's no specific amount. It depends on the cells that are available within the facility.
In what cell did the incident happen?
Cell 7214, which is located in Housing Unit 7.
And do you have in your report, or do you recall whose cell that was?
I've only notated in my report at the time that this cell belonged to inmate Moore.
Okay.
And I believe there was another inmate assigned to that cell, but I didn't notate it in my report at the time.
Okay. Now you stated that you were able to watch some video footage of different inmates going into the cell, leaving the cell, going back into the cell, coming out. Did the video footage show the actual assault?
It did not.
Does this video footage have any sound?
It does not.
At what point did you observe the defendant Alfonso Woods?
Can I refer to my report? In my report, I have a specific time that I observed him entering and exiting the cell.
If you need to refresh your recollection, you can refer to your report to do that.
Thank you. And can you just repeat that question for me? You said what time was he?
Yes, my question was, at what point did you observe defendant Alfonso Woods going into cell 7214?
So I have here in my report, I listed that at approximately.
Stop. Two things, investigator, right? I've observed you looking at that screen. And I think I was pretty clear that you need to listen to the prosecutor and answer the questions and not look at your screen. So this is going to be the second time I'm going to ask you not to do that, sir. Now, the second part. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
So Ms. Freeman asked you to look at the report so that it can reflect your, refresh your recollection. After you look at the report, your recollection is refreshed, then you go back to looking at us and answering the question, not reading from the screen, which is improper. Okay?
Understood.
Thank you, sir. So can you respond to her question?
Yeah. So in my report, I noted the time that he exited the cell.
And what time was that?
13 hours, which in other words is 10:13 p.m.
And what was the time that the alleged assault happened?
Can I refer to my report?
If you need to refresh your recollection, please do so.
I apologize for the delay. All right. The assault, the inmate assault, after reviewing the video footage, it appeared to start at 22:04 hours.
Investigator Wright, were you able to get a statement from inmate Wilkerson about what happened and who was there?
Yes, I was.
What did inmate Wilkerson tell you that happened?
Inmate Wilkerson explained to me that he was in his cell, and an inmate came down to get him from his cell and told him that the bros want to talk to him, is what he said. And he stated that bros that they called to the streets, and pretty much meaning that they heard that he was a gang member, that Wilkerson was a gang member of the Pyru gang. The inmate told him that the inmates wanted to talk to him inside the cell. The inmate Wilkerson told me that he did indeed walk up to the cell and went inside cell 7214. Wilkerson stated that another inmate said a few things to him about him not checking in as a gang member, and he said that he reached out to shake another inmate's hand, and at that point, another inmate struck him in his face. Wilkerson told me that while after the inmate struck him in his face, he kind of covered his face and stated that he didn't want to fight. And at that point, the inmate struck him several more times until he fell to the ground. Once he fell to the ground, Wilkerson told me that there were multiple inmates that started to kick him and punch him. At some point during that altercation, he told me that the inmates told him to put his head in the toilet. And when he didn't, an inmate shoved his head in the toilet. He also explained to me that another inmate opened up his legs and kicked him in his testicles while he was in there. He told me that he was crying for help. He tried to leave, but the inmates wouldn't allow him to leave. He said on the conclusion of the incident, he stated that he was in a lot of pain. He walked down the steps. When he tried to go towards the entry/exit door, another inmate prevented him and pretty much guided him to his cell. And he's saying inmate Freeman was telling him to go to his cell.
Investigator Wright, was inmate Wilkerson able to name the other inmates who participated in this assault?
So I provided inmate Wilkerson with a photo lineup of every single inmate that was assigned to that house unit during the time of this incident. He wasn't able to name each inmate, but he was able to physically point them out.
Was he able to notify or let you know the inmates who did not participate?
He did.
Did you take photos of his injuries?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Were you able to get statements from any of the inmates who inmate Wilkerson stated that participated in this incident?
So I was only able to get statements from one inmate. A statement from one inmate, excuse me.
Did that one inmate provide names of the other inmates who participated?
He did not.
What information was this inmate able to provide?
Well, he verbally told me prior to a written statement that he was assigned to that cell, and that someone did get jumped and beat up in his cell that night, but he stated that he didn't know who did what and why they did it. He said he stayed in his lane. When he was given an opportunity to write a written statement, he contradicted what he verbally told me.
Were all of the inmates that were named by inmate Wilkerson, did they all were they all assigned to that one housing unit?
Yes, ma'am.
Does your video footage show the various inmates leaving their cell, going to the cell where this happened?
Some of them were already in there.
Did this entire incident happen in the Clayton County Jail?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Tolles.
Oh, I'm sorry, Judge. One other question I thought I'd ask is I just need to make sure.
Sure.
Investigator Wright, you stated that that inmate Wilkerson was able to point out all of the individuals who participated. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Was Alfonso Woods part of that lineup?
Yes, ma'am, he was.
And what did inmate Wilkerson state regarding Mr. Alfonso Woods?
I believe he stated he struck him with a closed fist.
Did inmate Wilkerson indicate whether or not he had any conversations with Mr. Woods before this happened?
He did not.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Tolles.
Yes, investigator, you didn't place anybody in a photo lineup. You just showed the inmate all the photographs of everybody in that cell, correct?
Can you repeat that question?
You showed Mr. Wilkerson single photographs of everyone in the cell, correct?
I gave inmate Wilkerson a photo lineup of, yes, everyone inside the housing unit.
Okay, so you understand what a photo lineup is, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you understand in a photo lineup there's a usually a 6-person lineup with 5 people who are put in with a suspect.
Can you repeat that question, sir?
You understand that a photo lineup is a lineup, generally speaking, is a 6-photo lineup of various people, correct?
I gave him a photo lineup of every inmate inside the housing unit. I don't remember in which manner I conducted it.
Okay. Now you had an opportunity to review your report, correct?
Yes, sir. Briefly, yes, sir.
Okay. Isn't it true in your report you stated I handed him a photograph of everybody that was in the cell?
I have to refer to my report for recollection.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you repeat your question, please?
Okay. You stated in your report that you provided photos of every inmate who was assigned to Housing Unit 7 Pod 200. That's how you That's how you were able to get what you believe to be an identification, correct?
So there were two ways that I was able to get identification. One, Officer Martinez, who was working with us at the time.
Well, I'm not
assisted.
asking you, sir. I didn't ask about Officer Martinez. I'm asking about the person that was assaulted in the cell. You showed him photos of everyone in the pod, correct? Single photos.
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Okay. And in nothing in your report does it say that Mr. Woods individually punched him. There's nothing in your report that says that, correct?
I don't believe so.
Huh?
I don't believe so. I have to refer to my report for recollection.
Okay. Refer to your report for recollection where you're talking about showing him single photographs of everybody in the cell.
And Mr. Toles, just to move this along, can you refer him to the page?
Yes,
and the approximate
page
location?
2 of 4, the fourth paragraph where you were asking Wilkerson why he thought this incident happened to him. And then I think go about 4 lines down, you had asked inmate Wilkerson, would he be able to identify each inmate he observed in the cell?
You said that's on the second page, correct?
Yes, page 2 of 4, fourth paragraph, beginning with I asked Wilkerson. Do you see that?
That says the street, correct?
Okay.
After that sentence, enter the street. Encounters on the street. Are you talking about that line?
No, well, my 2 of 4, I guess, starts with I asked Wilkerson. Do you have that paragraph? I asked Wilkerson.
Chris, I'm trying to find it too. Are you saying, was it the I asked Wilkerson why he thought this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I asked
So-
Wilkerson why he thought this incident happened to him.
Okay, so investigator Wright, if you have what I'm looking at, it's on page 7. At the top of page 7.
And attorney, can you please repeat that question again, please?
Yes, my question, well, I want to just clarify that you showed the inmate single photographs. That's what you put in your report, not a photo lineup, but single photographs of everybody in the cell.
So I believe I answered that question. I showed a photo lineup of everyone in that housing unit 7, that pod, that specific pod housing unit that they were housed in.
Okay.
And,
Not just
and give me 1 second. And I think investigator Wright, what
Yes,
I'm
sir.
hearing from attorney Toles is that he's apparently looking at something that you may have written, and he's asking about what was written. And it generally is a yes or no question. It's either there or it's not there. And you can explain your answer if you need to. But again, I'm listening for comprehension. So when he asks a question, I'm listening to you for the answer. And if you don't answer the question that he asked, it just, because I don't know anything about this case.
I understand.
So it just makes it where I can't figure anything out. So the question, and correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Toles, but you're asking him about something that you see in his report, and that's what you're questioning him about.
Yes, and this may be the definition of the word photo lineup. He's using photo lineup. Showing photographs is not a photo lineup. That's just showing photographs. A lineup would include a suspect and then 5 other people who aren't, but
No,
similar,
I understand.
nature.
I understand.
That's a photo lineup. Not you're not showing anybody a lineup if you hand him a single photo, that's not showing somebody a lineup.
And so from what I heard, I believe his response was in line with what you were saying, that he showed photographs of everyone in that either pod or cell, because we've gone back and forth with that term. And now what I'm listening for is the question related to oh, now I didn't forgot the question.
Okay. Yes. And then my
sorry.
follow-up question was, as to the photographs that you showed, there's nothing in your report, there's nothing that he told you about my client punching him in the face. There's nothing in that report about him when he looked up to the photographs and said, okay, I got the photograph of Mr. Woods, this man punched me in the face. That's nowhere in your report, correct?
I don't believe I notated it at my report. No, sir.
Okay. And so this incident occurred back in January. You investigated, you began an investigation on January 4th, correct?
I believe so. It was,
Okay.
I believe
The
I got
incident-
promoted in. It was some point in January, sir. I'm not entirely sure of the date, but I did get promoted to investigator in January. Prior to when I did this investigation, I was a deputy.
Okay, I understand that. But even the first line out of your paragraph, you said on January 4th, I, Deputy Wright, was assigned this case, correct? On January 4th?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you got that from a lieutenant, correct?
Got this investigation
Yes.
from a lieutenant at the time. Yes.
Okay. All right. So again, going back, so just so I'm clear, and you know, now you know your maybe your page 7 might be my page 2, but you understand in the paragraph that after you showed him and he started pointing out suspects, there's nothing in the report about Mr. Wilkerson saying that Mr. Woods punched him in the face, correct?
I may not have notated in my report.
Okay, so you're just speculating that,
I'm
correct?
not. No.
So you have a specific recollection of all the 9 people that were arrested. You remember what he told you about Mr. Woods.
I had to refer to, well, you know, I didn't actually audio record this, but from my recollection, every inmate that I listed in my report, inmate Wilkerson told me that that inmate physically assaulted him.
Okay, all right. That's all I have, Judge.
Any follow-up, Ms. Freeman?
No, Judge.
Do you intend to present any evidence, Mr. Tolles?
I do not.
And I'm assuming you're going to waive opening, Ms. Freeman?
Yes, Judge.
Investigator Wright, you are free to go or to stay at your leisure. Okay.
I'm clear, Your Honor.
Mr. Tolles, let me hear your argument.
Okay. Judge, the investigator had an opportunity to review video, and he also had an opportunity to review, you know, the statements. We've been here all day, and it's, you know, this thing happened back in December, and we're now at the end of June. So he's had plenty of time to kind of get the facts straight as to who might have did what, when, and where. Judge, as it relates to the counts that are on this entire warrant, at no point does the investigator state that Mr. Woods falsely imprisoned anyone, that he kept anybody from leaving anywhere, that he stopped anything from anything or doing anything. The only thing that he could say is that maybe he punched him. And Judge, I don't think that statement is credible, because there's nothing in the report, and the officer admitted this, there's nothing in the report that my client assaulted him or did anything. So to say that my client punched him, he's just speculating, he's just throwing stuff out there. There's no way he could remember which individual person did or when. There's just no evidence of a false imprisonment. The man went to the cell voluntarily. He left his cell, went to the cell voluntarily in a jail. where he could throw up his hands at any time and say, help, I need help, I need help, I need help. He went into that cell on his own. Something happened. Somebody said some words. Somebody hit him in the face, and that's it. The police or the investigator didn't even get involved until 4 years later. And he said that I got something about an inmate assault. We've heard no evidence of any of this man's injuries, how bad he was injured. We don't know if he had bruises. We don't know if he had scratches. We don't know if he was in an infirmary. We have no evidence, Judge, that this inmate was injured in any way, shape, form, or fashion. The only thing we know is that he was in a cell that he voluntarily went to, was talking with a bunch of other inmates, and somebody threw a punch. The inmate stated also that he fell to the ground, he covered his head, he was forced to put his head in the toilet. There's no information before this court that this man had any type of vision that he could see my client or anyone else what was going on. How could you do that if your eyes were closed? He could identify that first guy, but he couldn't identify my guy. He's not identified at what point my guy came in the cell. Judge, what we know about fights is that when punches are being thrown, you're not counting out all the people who are throwing punches, Judge. You're just taking punches. There's people that are throwing punches. There's also people that are, coming in, trying to see what's happening, trying to see what the fight is, trying to, get on the action, just trying to see what's going on. There's just no evidence of my client. Again, Judge, we're in a jail, false imprisonment in a jail. They're already imprisoned. So to say you were falsely imprisoned in a prison is ridiculous in a place that you went to. There's no evidence that anybody prevented him to leave. Yeah, there was a fight, somebody punched him, but to say that he was falsely imprisoned in a prison is ridiculous. There's zero evidence of a conspiracy, Judge. Zero. There's no evidence that my client conspired with anyone to do anything to this Mr. Wilkerson. He was asked to come to the cell. There was some questions asked, and somebody threw a punch. There's no evidence that my client said, "Hey, you know what? Let's lure this guy to the cell and let's beat him up." That's conspiracy. There's no evidence that my guy was a party to the commission of any crime. Again, showing a bunch of photographs, single photographs, is not a lineup, Judge. That is probably the most suggestive. Kind of reminds me of the Duke case, the Duke lacrosse case, when they showed the girl. No, the only people that they showed was the players on the Duke lacrosse team. So anybody that she would have picked out in the lineup would have been on the Duke lacrosse team. So if you're only showing pictures of people who are in the cell, then yeah, I mean, yeah, you're gonna have a 100% chance because that was the only people that he showed. So it's not even a good way of doing an identification. And then even in your own report, you weren't able to specify what, if anything, that Mr. Woods allegedly did. And again, there's another conspiracy to commit another crime. Judge, again, there's nothing on the books that my client was planning anything, was doing anything. Judge, these men have nothing to do. There's no TV, there's no library, there's no outside. They're just in a cell pod. The only thing that they do all day is go in and out of each other's cell. That's what they do all the time. So you can't say that just because somebody went in somebody's cell that they did anything. The officer testified that you could not see the assault from the video. So the only evidence that could link my client to any crime would be the actual victim who picked out photographs of only selected of people that were actually in that cell. And even then, he couldn't even say what my client did or anything. There's been no testimony as to when this false imprisonment occurred. Did it occur during the fight? Was it later on afterwards? Again, Judge, it's a jail fight at the jail. And we're here on conspiracies and false imprisonments and conspiracy to commit crimes about a guy who I don't even know. Did he go to the sheriff's office and say I'm a victim of assault? I was a victim of being imprisoned. I don't see that in anywhere in the report. This is 4 days after the event. Are you telling me that the sheriff's office didn't know something like this occurred until 4 days after? No, Judge, there's insufficient evidence in this case. And with so many people being charged in this case, we got to be very, very careful charging people that may not have had anything to do with it. The DA's office has the route of an indictment. They can review the video, they can interview the victim, any witnesses that may have been there, and they can determine who and who was not involved. But based on what this court heard here today, Judge, with no evidence of any injuries, with no evidence of anything, just, okay, somebody threw a punch, somebody threw a kick, but we don't even know how badly he was hurt. There's nothing here, and there's nothing to show that this was planned or anything, so there's no conspiracy. So I'm asking the court to dismiss the charges for lack of probable cause. And again, that doesn't end it for the state. It just means that if they wish to seek prosecution against Mr. Woods or any of the other 8 individuals, I'm sure they will do a complete and thorough investigation. And if they choose to do so, but to hold my client in jail on this, or anyone else really, is just, somebody threw a punch, Judge. That's what it is. So I'm asking the court to dismiss all of the charges for insufficient evidence.
Judge, thank you. I'm asking all the charges be bound over. Mr. Toles, a lot of his argument is certainly for a superior court, and he seems to make the argument that just because it happened in the jail, that it's okay. He repeatedly referred to it was a jail fight. Well, inmate Wilkerson still had the right to be safe in the jail. As funny or odd as that may sound, he still had the right to not be assaulted. The testimony indicated that when Investigator Wright showed the photo lineup, as he referred to it, to inmate Wilkerson did not choose everyone in those photos. He only picked out the ones that he knew were involved in assaulting him. He was not charged with aggravated battery, so the severity of the injuries is really not relevant to probable cause for these charges. We heard the testimony that photos were taken of the injuries. We also heard the testimony that inmate Wilkerson stated that at one point when he was inside of that cell, that he was not allowed to leave. So Judge, I think that based on this testimony from Investigator Wright, looking at the totality of the circumstances, that I believe probable cause has been shown for all of these charges as alleged. So I'm asking that the 4 charges be bound over to Superior Court.
Thank you both. I have a question. As it relates to the conspiracy charges, all I have is 2 conspiracy to commit crime. What is the crime?
So Judge, it looks like the one way it was charged was conspiracy to commit a battery. And the other one, looking at the warrant, well, both of them were charged the same way, to commit a battery. And for whatever reason, Judge, on warrant 51156, it looks like it was charged as a felony. That's what's listed on the warrant. And for 51157, it was charged as a misdemeanor. So I apologize. So 51156 is conspiracy to commit a battery and false imprisonment. So that's why that was the felony. And then the other one is just a battery, which is a misdemeanor.
I was listening to the testimony of Investigator Wright, and the on cross-examination, there's questioning as to whether Mr. Woods was identified within the incident report. But as I listened to the testimony, it seemed as though there was that he was, Woods was picked out of the I'll say photo array or the photographs that were provided by Investigator Mitchell. I do have questions or concerns, but I think those concerns are going to be best dealt with in a trial. So I'm going to bind these 4 charges over to the Superior Court of Clayton County. And I'm relying largely on the identification of the alleged victim by Mr. Woods. I think Mr. Tolles has made.
Judge, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Where's
Yes,
the
sir.
evidence of a conspiracy, though? Where's the evidence of?
Judge, I'm going to object at this point.
Hold on.
I mean,
Miss Freeman, Miss Freeman, I need to listen.
But Judge, you were making your ruling, and at this point, any questions that Mr. Tolles has would be when it goes up to Superior Court. And my concern is that, I mean, Mr. Tolles wants to start making another argument, and Your Honor was already making a ruling. And so I would object at this point, Judge.
Hard about this. I've got questions.
Mr. Hold, please.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to listen to Mr. Tolles, Miss Freeman. I'm going to listen. Go ahead, Mr. Tolles.
There's just been I'm just asking, where's the evidence of a conspiracy? Where's the evidence that this was a planned event, that we're going to beat this guy up and hold him hostage? There's no evidence of that.
Okay. Stop. Mr. Tolles, I can answer that question.
Okay.
You don't need to go on.
Sure.
The testimony that I heard was that the alleged victim was told to come up to that 7214. And when he came up to 7214, that's when either it's saying you're not checking in or whatever terminology, but the person was told to come up there. And one can infer that because the person came up and there were people in the room, that there had already been an agreement made as to what was going to happen when the person got into 7214. So that's what I'm looking at. And the argument that you're making is an argument that can be made, but that's what I'm looking to. That's what I'm pointing to.
An inference that, okay. I mean, like I said, your ruling is your ruling, but I don't, there was a conversation going back and forth. I mean, there's no evidence just because somebody asked you to come to the room that you might have answered the questions correctly and they might have let you go back to the room. I don't know. You know, we don't know.
Well,
so
and again, I'm going to object. Your Honor has made this ruling.
Miss Freeman,
I know,
please.
Judge.
I got my big boy pants on today, so I can respond. What I tell people all the time, Mr. Tolles, is if my job is to answer a question, my job is not to make you like or accept the answer. Sure. So you've asked me a question, I've given you an answer, and we can move on from there. Okay. All right. So that's going to be the ruling of the court. We're done today. 15 minutes later than yesterday, but we're done today. And I will see at least you, Ms. Freeman, on
Right. We just have a
Friday.
few cases. Yes, we just have a few cases on Friday's calendar.
Okay. Mr. Woods can be returned, and Mr. Tolles, you are excused.
Thank you, Judge.
And Judge, actually, given how big the calendar was, I mean, we did pretty good. It's just it's 2:15. I mean, so it wasn't bad.
Yeah, we had some gremlins. Could have gotten it done better. I strive to be better every time.
I invest hours of my time every single day to make these videos possible. Unfortunately, the engagement on my videos has been very low recently. Most of the bond court viewers do not hit the like button on my videos. Please, 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 hit the like button on my videos. The YouTube algorithms heavily favor videos with more likes. If you do not like my videos, then please tell me why in the comments and I can make changes to improve the channel. Thank you to all of you that do hit the like button. I am sorry that you have to hear this repetitive message, but without this message, less than 10% of viewers will like my videos.
Thank you to all of my patrons, members, and supporters. You are the reason that I am able to upload new bond courts daily. All members and patrons receive access to the Bond Court Discord server. Please send me a message on Patreon or leave a comment on YouTube if you are unable to join the server. Thank you all for your support.